Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Welcome my guest, Kelly-Ann Ayuk. She's the founder of Energy Capital and Power. And of course, she's also an entrepreneur. She specializes in getting those much needed investment for Africa. Energy sector is a field of play. Great to see you, Kelly-Ann. How are you today in Johannesburg?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. And I get all enthused when I heard about the Invest Africa Energy. We need to accelerate the growth of renewable and other form of energy on the African continent. Just to hit the ground running, we need much needed capital, both local and foreign. But whether we like it or not, Africa will still have to depend on developers, investors, energy projects, folks who would bring in the much needed capital to Africa. So give me a sense of what the central message is for the Paris summit.
Absolutely. I think what's really key is that the task ahead of us is huge. We know the figure of 600 million Africans without power, and that's 83% of the world's unelectrified population. So the task ahead of us is huge. That's in addition to, creating businesses and industries and so forth. So the key is that we have to be securing financing from all over the world. In this edition, we're in Paris, investing in African Energies Paris, whereby we want to connect with financiers based in Europe and globally and connect them with African projects in renewables, of course, in natural gas, and of course in oil, to ensure that we are working our way to electrifying and industrializing Africa's future.
Very interesting background you gave there, Kelly-Ann. But again, when you look at Europe, 2 years, 3, 4 years ago, it's not the same story today. Donald Trump is now in the White House. Europe is beginning to look like an orphan, the way things are going. But Europe is still talking about gas as the transition energy. They need it very badly. Russia, on the other hand, is blaring through Ukraine. So, do you think that the geopolitical discussions and everything, that the whole Russia-Ukraine will be on everyone's mind when they meet with you and the other delegates and speakers in Paris?
I think, as you said, you've outlined some key geopolitical moments. I think what's becoming increasingly clear is a more pragmatic approach, that energy is needed. And this is not just an African issue. Energy security is top priority in Europe. It's top priority in the US as well. And what you're seeing is a far more pragmatic approach to what is available, what can be financed, what makes sense for investors as a return. And so there's a move away from being shy in funding oil and gas projects. We know renewables are going to be key for Africa, but a lot of countries have existing and strong and very promising oil and gas discoveries or blocks that are currently producing. So you're going to see a rounded effort across the board to push investment all around in those three areas.
Give me a sense of some of the previous editions of the Invest in Africa Paris, this platform. How much was done in the past? What are the key takeaways for you looking at the change, the geopolitical situations different in 2025 from where we were 2024, 2023? Are there takeaways for you as you lead the rest of these hundreds of delegates, top high-profile people, investors to Paris once again?
Absolutely. And I'd like to highlight two perspectives. I think what is really key about this forum being in Paris is that Europe has actually been leading the way in Africa with regards to renewable financing. So as much as they might be, as you termed it, an orphan on the global stage, with regards to Europe and Africa's relationship, the investment in renewables has been quite sizable, even already in 2025. We've had 3 huge deals take place. There's the Climate Funds managers. They secured 150 million from European investors. That's focusing on green hydrogen in Namibia and in South Africa. We have in January the AFDB and PowerGen Renewables, and they're deploying around 120 megawatts of renewable power. And they're focusing on battery energy storage. And then again, in January, there was the European Investment Bank and the First Rand Bank launching 400 million euros to expand renewable projects in South Africa. And this is all before we look at what was taking place in Tanzania earlier this year with the Mission 300 initiative. Between the AFDB and the World Bank, there was close to 60 billion USD pledged. So renewables are super important. And building on that success of deals that have gone through in Q1 already this year, we're looking to capitalize and present new projects from our African state partners in front of investors. On the other side, what we're looking is also giving a spotlight and a highlight to markets that don't usually appear in the news, that don't usually get the amount of fanfare with regards to their energy prospects. Yeah. Absolutely. And so, we're highlighting Gambia, Liberia, for example, Mauritania. Mauritania is an absolute gem when it comes to both gas prospects. So, we've got their huge production there between Senegal and Mauritania, but also on the solar and hydrogen side. And where they're located is of great importance to both Africa and to Europe. So the emphasis is connecting these up-and-coming emerging markets to African investors and highlighting the opportunities of bankable projects. We're going to
I'm going to be biased, Kelly. You haven't mentioned Nigeria. Okay, so...
Nigeria has turned its tables in terms of attracting investment on the oil and gas side. We've seen that over the past 12 months. There was a stagnation for many, many years, and we've seen that turned around with sizable investments pledged by some of the energy majors. And of course, Nigeria needs to be part of that. So, I'm more than open and excited to be bringing Nigerian projects and Nigerian companies who are actively looking for investment in Europe and elsewhere, who would like to join us on the 13th and 14th of May in Paris.
Yes, the LNG Train 8 Nigeria is building. Some folks say Nigeria should be on Train 12 by now. The country can do so much more based on its potential. So I'm sure Nigerian team will be there in Paris with you. Now, in terms of those who are going to be the expected delegates and the speakers, on the investor side and the project developer side, who are you looking up on that signed on to be in Paris?
Absolutely. So from a finance point of view, the Trade Development Bank and Rand Merchant Bank are confirmed, in addition to Premier Invest and the African Finance Corporation. Over the years, we've worked very closely with Afrexim Bank as well and Standard Bank in places like Angola. With regards to investors, we've got a great support from some of the NOCs and also international energy companies like ENI, like Total Energies, for example, Independent Trinidad Energies and Eco Atlantic. We have senior executives from those companies participating and CEOs. So, we're very excited to welcome, the likes of Mike Sangster, for example, from Total and Gilles Holzman from Eco Atlantic. In addition, as I said, NOCs, we have UNOC, that's the Ugandan National Oil Company, the newly formed SANPC. This is a very important event for them. They'll be showcasing their investor pitch and going into detail in a Q&A session. In addition, we have GNPC from Gambia, Liberia, Petroleum Regulatory Authority. They're actually showcasing their 29 blocks that they're promoting for direct negotiation. So this is an absolute treasure trove of opportunity in terms of networking and deal making, and we're very excited to be facilitating this in Paris.
I'm excited as well, Kelly-Ann. I just want to stretch you a little bit. Do you have an idea what the deal table will look like in terms of your outlook as to $100 billion, $50 billion. What's the take? What do you think?
You're putting me on the spot here. In terms of business being negotiated and signed off, I expect upwards of $1 billion USD. Premier Invest has their deal room. We're very excited to be hearing about the projects that they're working on, and it's always in excess of $100 million in each project. If you look on the licensing round presentation from Liberia, that's a huge number of potential projects there available. We've also got, as I said, SANPC and further discussions on natural gas and LNG opportunities as well. So upwards of $1 billion we're expecting.
So in terms of the key concerns that these energy investors and others will be looking at in Africa, what are you learning on the ground on a day-to-day basis in terms of the kind of a change they would like to see across the various regions on the African continent, from the Central Africa, the Southern, East, and the Northern Corridor, as well as West Africa? We're making some progress. But are there concerns that you think this platform, the Invest Africa 2025 edition, will bring to the fore, the kind of comfort that we need to provide these deep pocket investors to do more projects on the African continent, to make sure that these projects also come on stream as quickly as possible, to make energy poverty in Africa go away, at least reduce significantly the footprint of energy poverty on the continent?
Absolutely. I think what's really key, and as we're working with the participating projects and countries, is that pragmatic approach to know that they're not only competing against their fellow Africans, and we're also competing against other global markets. We're competing against Guyana, we're competing against Asia, and having pragmatic policies that facilitate investment without too much red tape, without too much bureaucracy. That's an ongoing opportunity for African markets to demonstrate. I think what's really key here is that, and we hear this term used over and over again, an enabling environment is key. We're very familiar with that. And so, we've worked with ministries in Congo, Republic of Congo, for example, and that ministry has been reaping the benefits of making things easier for investors and they've seen that with new discoveries and increased production. The same with Nigeria, for example. It's taking this dynamic leadership and pushing projects forward and making sure that nothing stops the progress and nothing steps in their way.
Yeah, I saw that the DRC is about to hold an inaugural oil and gas major forum for which I'm sure ECP will most likely be part of. That's quite big for DRC, bringing some good news to the table despite the political and regional conflict in that region. We'll keep an eye on the Invest Africa forum in Paris. Thank you so much, Kelly-Ann, for raising the cause. And we're touching base with you just before the forum and get the sound bites and all the build up to this major European gathering for African sovereigns and the companies within the private sector doing business in hydrocarbon and beyond. Thank you so much, Kelly-Ann Ayuk. Thank you. We appreciate your time speaking with us.